What if I told you the biggest threat to your future isn't failure, but drifting through life on autopilot? Every man feels fear, but only a few know how to turn it into fuel. Are you one of them? This year will look just like the last, unless you rise, decide, and build the identity that changes everything. You will not change your life by accident, only by conscious, repeated, and ruthless decision. What if I told you that your next 12 months will be a perfect copy of the last 12? Not because fate demands it, but because you haven't decided to break the cycle. What if I told you that the real enemy isn't failure, but the silent drift that steals your time, your ambition, your destiny? Millions of men don't live unfulfilled lives because they're incapable, but because they never made the choice to rise. So listen closely. This is not entertainment. This is a challenge. This is not information. It's transformation, but only if you're willing to claim it. You're not here to be comforted. You're here to wake up. Deep inside, you already know you're built for more. That knowledge has been burning in your chest for years, quietly aching every time you settle for less. But knowing is not enough. Knowing is not power. Power is deciding. Power is acting. Power is becoming. And only a rare few make that leap. Fewer still sustain it. Almost none repeat that action long enough to become the identity of a builder, not a drifter. Let me ask you directly, what is the cost of your current life? What price are you paying by not living with absolute clarity and purpose? Because if you haven't made that decision yet, your life is being designed by default, not by direction. I've studied the lives of men like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Abraham Lincoln, Charles Schwab, and Andrew Carnegie, not to glorify them, but to decode what made them inevitable. And I found something extraordinary. They didn't live by accident. They didn't float. They forged. They didn't hope. They executed. They didn't wait for the right moment. They created it. They didn't ask for permission. They gave themselves orders. They didn't drift. They decided, and here you are, listening. Because something inside you knows the way you've been living cannot continue. Another year lost in fog. Another year devoured by comfort. Another year sucked into the swamp of hesitation, of overthinking, of invisible fear disguised as logic. You already know where that road leads. It leads to forgotten dreams and buried potential. It leads to a watered-down version of you, one who barely recognizes himself. It leads to that final moment of life when the ghosts of your talents, ideas, and strength stand around your bed and ask why you never gave them life. You were not born to live the same year 10 times and call it growth. But that's exactly what most men do. They write bold resolutions but live small routines. They speak great intentions but change nothing. Every morning they wake up as the same man stuck in the same mind because they never installed the discipline to become someone new. Understand, this time doesn't change your life. You change your life. The clock will tick whether you rise or rot. The harshest truth I've ever had to speak is this: your future does not improve by luck. It improves by architecture. If you want this year to be radically different, then you must be radically different. And that difference doesn't come from fleeting emotion, not from hype, not from wishful thinking. It comes from a process I've spent a lifetime studying and refining, a process grounded in absolute clarity of purpose, ruthless commitment, and emotional repetition. It's built through the daily hammering of auto-suggestion, mastery of thought, feeling, and relentless behavior until your old self cracks beneath the weight of your new identity. Let me make this crystal clear: this message will change nothing unless you repeat it. You must install it, internalize it, engrave it into your mind until the old voice, the one that doubted, delayed, and drifted, dies. You don't need more inspiration. You need a reprogramming. Your current identity was built by the repetition of fear, of excuses, of fragile habits. So if repetition made you weak, then repetition must now make you unstoppable. That is why I say this to you with urgency: don't listen once. Listen daily. Listen until it breaks through your resistance. Listen until it burns into your bones and becomes instinct. Let this voice replace the lies you've been telling yourself. Let it guide your next 12 months. You have 12 chapters ahead, 365 chances, a full year waiting to be shaped by your choices. The only question now is, who are you becoming with them? Let this be the death of hesitation. Let this be the moment you choose clarity over confusion. Let this be the year where everything changes, not because the world shifts, but because you do. Take a deep breath. because the next words will dismantle every excuse you've clung to, every illusion that comfort ever served you. And if you let these truths ignite your soul with fire and repetition, you will not leave this message the same man who began it. Now let us begin. The hidden danger of drift, living without deciding. Let us speak without sugarcoating it. Most men are not truly living. They're not awake. They're drifting. They're not deciding. They're deferring. Day after day, they put off decisions that could reshape their lives. They don't walk with direction. They wander in the fog, thinking they're moving forward, when in reality, they're stuck in a loop. They do not live with clarity. They exist by default, carried by the current of routine and convenience. This condition, this silent sickness, is what I call drift. And let me warn you now, if you don't take command of your mind will take command of you. And the first sign of that loss is drift. In my allegorical conversation with the devil, as captured in Outwitting the Devil, I uncovered his most powerful weapon against mankind. It wasn't addiction. It wasn't violence. It wasn't even fear. It was drift. He confessed, I cause people to drift through life without purpose or plan. I manipulate them through their habits, their appetites, their fears, and their laziness. I do not need to destroy them. I only need to make them drift, and they will destroy themselves. This isn't a metaphor. This isn't fiction. This is the truth that so many refuse to face. A drifter is not evil. He's simply asleep. A drifter is not talentless. He is purposeless. He's not cursed by fate. He's paralyzed by indecision. And what's most tragic, he doesn't even know it. Most men never realize they are drifting. They wake up, go through the motions, work a job, scroll, a screen, repeat conversations, but never question where their life is headed. They procrastinate. They rationalize. They say, I'll figure it out soon. I just need to feel ready. Next week, I'll start for real. But the calendar doesn't wait. Days become weeks. Weeks become years. And before they know it, they are middle-aged, directionless, disillusioned, and still spinning in mental circles, clinging to the fantasy that someday they'll rise. Someday they'll break through. Someday. But that someday never comes because they never made a clear decision to change. And here's the brutal truth. Most men will die as drifters, and they'll never even know it. They will pass on, leaving no legacy, no impact, no proof that they ever truly lived. Their potential will be buried with them, unrealized, untouched, and forgotten. Why? Because they never seized control of their own mind. And what the mind doesn't command, the world hijacks. You must understand this. Now, drift is the default condition of the undisciplined man. If you do not design your life with intention, you are already living inside someone else's plan. If you do not give your mind direction, it will take the path of least resistance. And that path leads nowhere extraordinary. It leads straight to mediocrity. Do not accept this fate, because the pain of regret, the pain of watching others build legacies while you waste time second-guessing yourself, that pain cuts deeper than anything discipline will ever ask of you. I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it. A man who cannot control his mind will never control his destiny. It's not luck that separates the great from the forgotten. It's intention, it's discipline, it's the refusal to drift. Now is the time to wake up. Now is the time to confront the truth. Are you living or drifting? And if the answer unsettles you, good. That means your awareness has returned. That means you still have time, but only if you decide. The decided man builds the drifter. Waits, let me make this distinction loud and clear. The world is divided into two kinds of men, the drifter and the decided. The drifter waits. He waits for the right time, for clarity, for confidence. The decided man moves. He acts in the face of uncertainty. The drifter reacts to life, letting circumstances write his story. But the decided man designs his life deliberately, forcefully, unapologetically. The drifter avoids failure like a plague. The decided man sees failure as feedback, as refinement, as fuel. The drifter looks for approval from the world. The decided man gives himself the only permission that matters: internal command. You must become that man, a man who decides, a man who draws a line in the sand and declares war on drift, not tomorrow, not when life feels easier, but now, right now. And how do you begin this war? You install something I call the definite chief aim. This is not some casual goal. This is not a dream scribbled in the corner of a notebook during a moment of fleeting inspiration. This is the single unshakable purpose that dominates your life. It is written in stone, burned into your subconscious, repeated every single day with emotion and certainty until it becomes your very identity. Without a definite chief aim, you will wander aimlessly no matter how hard you work. But with it, you will build with purpose. This aim becomes your anchor in chaos, your compass in confusion, your fire when fatigue knocks you down. Every man who ever built something meaningful, Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Lincoln, they had this in common. They knew exactly where they were going. Not someday, not when the time is right. They knew now. You must do the same. No more vague goals, no more soft hopes. No more, let's see how it goes. That is the language of the drifting man. You are here to take command. And to help you do that, I'm giving you a weapon. Use it every morning. Say it with fire, with presence. With conviction, I know where I am going. I know who I am. I do not drift. I decide. I design. I dominate. Let that be the sword that cuts through the fog of your old identity. Speak it aloud even when you don't feel it. Because every time you say it, your subconscious is listening. And every time it hears it with emotion, it begins to install it as truth. This isn't fantasy. This is neuroscience. This is identity reengineering. You don't change your life by wishing. You change it by rewiring your mind through repetition. You command yourself daily. You burn the bridges back to hesitation. You eliminate every path that leads back to the fog. You destroy distractions. You abandon old habits. You let the old version of you die so that the new one can breathe. Because the cost of one more year lost to drift isn't just the months, it's the erosion of who you could have become. Drift doesn't kill your schedule. It kills your identity. It convinces you to give away the most precious thing you'll ever own: your direction. This is not a message from a friend or mentor. This is your own conscience speaking to you now. Drift won't attack you. It will seduce you. It doesn't break your life. It convinces you to hand it over inch by inch. And there is only one antidote decision. Declare your definite chief aim. Burn it into your brain. And from this moment forward, let this become your battle cry. I know where I'm going, and I refuse to drift. Say it every day. Say it when doubt creeps in. Say it with fire in your voice. Because if you do not program your mind, the world will do it for you. And the world is designed to keep you small, silent, and drifting. Don't let it. Decide now. Thought is, because life is effect. There is an unbreakable law that governs all progress. Your thoughts come first. Before a man wastes a year, before he misses an opportunity, before he wakes up a year older, but no closer to his vision, he first loses the battle in his mind. You don't lose time on the calendar, you lose it in your thinking. Reality is not shaped by clocks, weather, or the news. It is shaped by the man who takes dominion over his thoughts. Everything you are, everything you become, everything you will ever accomplish begins in thought. Every failure is born in the mind before it manifests in action. Every triumph is constructed mentally before it becomes reality. This is not motivation, it's mechanics. It's not opinion, it's law. As I wrote in Think and Grow Rich, more gold has been mined from the minds of men than from the earth itself. That truth has not changed. But most men, they don't live this way. The average man exists in reaction. He's told what to fear, what to chase, what to believe. His thoughts are not his own. He accepts opinions the way a beggar accepts crumbs, and then wonders why his life feels so small, so out of control, so unfulfilling. But the uncommon man, the one who breaks free, he commands his mind. He doesn't wait for life to tell him what to think. He chooses his thoughts the same way a general commands his army. He decides what will be believed. And he repeats those beliefs over and over again until they carve themselves into the foundation of who he is. You will not waste this year because you were too busy. You won't lose it because of economic conditions or personal chaos. You will lose it only if you let the world program your thinking, because the mind left untrained becomes a sponge. And it doesn't just absorb ideas, it absorbs fears, limitations, distractions, doubts, and noise. And those thoughts, they become beliefs. Those beliefs become daily choices, and those choices fill your calendar. Your schedule, your habits, your actions, they're not random. They're the output of your internal programming. So let me ask you, plainly, who is writing your thoughts? Are you feeding your mind the thoughts of a king, or are you repeating the whispers of a coward? Because every time you say, "I'll wait, I'll see," maybe later you hand over the steering wheel of your life to someone or something else. This is why I've insisted again and again for decades you must practice auto-suggestion. The daily, deliberate, emotional repetition of chosen thoughts. This is how you take back the pen and rewrite the story of your life. Because if you don't, the world will do it for you. No, you won't be hypnotized by a cloaked magician, but you will be hypnotized by the rhythm of distraction, the endless scroll, the repetition of doubt, and the reinforcement of mediocrity. If your thoughts drift, your life will drift. If your mind is passive, your life will be reactive. The quality of your thoughts is the blueprint of your existence. Every great man I've studied, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, understood this law. They didn't let their thoughts drift randomly. They installed intention. They repeated their goal. They visualized success. And they refused to entertain a single thought that contradicted their vision. They weren't lucky. They were intentional. Because thought is the cause. Circumstance is the effect. If you lose time this year, it won't be because the year was difficult. It will be because you failed to take control of the mind that governs time. You cannot achieve outward success without first commanding it internally. Your discipline begins in thought. Your direction begins in thought. Even your self-respect begins in thought. So choose wisely. Every man moves in the direction of his most repeated thoughts. And if your thoughts are scattered, your life will be chaotic. But if your thoughts are trained, focused, disciplined, then your path will be carved by strength and clarity. This is the battlefield, and it begins in your mind. The power of auto-suggestion program, your mind or be programmed. Let me share with you the single tool that changed everything, not only for me, but for thousands of men I've trained, guided, and watched transform. That tool is daily auto-suggestion fueled by emotion, not empty repetition, not robotic affirmations, but the fierce, intentional declaration of identity spoken aloud with fire until it penetrates your soul. This is not motivational fluff. This is how you install belief. You don't simply repeat words, you speak them with power. You don't whisper them softly, you write them as law. You engrave them into your nervous system through emotionally charged repetition until your subconscious finally accepts, this is who I am now. You must speak not as the man you are, but as the man you are becoming. And you must speak it every single day, because while you may say it once, the world is whispering fear into your mind every hour. Your environment is broadcasting doubt, mediocrity, and confusion nonstop. So if you're not programming your mind, rest assured it is being programmed for you. Why am I telling you this? Not to inspire you, but because this is mechanical. Your subconscious does not respond to casual thoughts. It only responds to dominant ones. And the thoughts you repeat with emotion are the ones that rise to dominance. Those thoughts become beliefs, and those beliefs, they become your reality. You might ask, but Mr. Hill, what if I don't believe these words yet? And I'll answer you plainly. You don't speak them because they are true. You speak them until they become true. You are not lying to yourself, you are leading yourself. You are not pretending, you are programming. Let your mind hear this command daily, morning and night, especially when fear is loud. I command my thoughts. I do not obey fear. I do not drift. I decide. I dominate. I write my year with intention. I write my day with purpose. I command my direction, and the world must follow. Say it when you wake. Say it before you sleep. Say it when doubt creeps in. Say it not as a whisper, but as a declaration, a war cry. Say it until your body believes it, until your posture changes, until the man in the mirror nods in agreement. You must see yourself walking in strength. You must visualize your rise while others stall. You must feel the electricity of personal command flowing through your spine. Because here's the truth, the world won't give you what you want. It gives you only what it believes you deserve. So the most important question becomes, what does your belief allow you to receive? Let me say this again. Do not let another year slip through your hands because you obeyed fear. Do not arrive at December wondering where it all went. The answer is not in your schedule. The answer is always in your mind. So take it back, reclaim it, reprogram it. This is how you destroy drift. This is how you gain momentum. This is how you take back the months before they disappear into routine and regret. And let me leave you with this final truth. Some men walk this earth as shadows, not because they were born weak, but because they never learned to think with power. And some men reshape history, not because of money, not because of talent, but because they mastered the inner war. They commanded their thoughts like a general commands his army. You have that same mind, that same raw material. And you now have this message, this instruction as your weapon. Don't just hear it. Use it, repeat it, install it. Because either the world is writing your life or you are. Say it once more with full conviction, I command my thoughts. I do not obey fear. Let that be the drumbeat of your day. Because when you own your mind, you own your year. And when you own your year, you change your life. Success is built brick by brick. Not granted by luck. Let me be absolutely clear with you. Success is not a thunderclap. It's not a lightning strike of luck, not a sudden explosion of fortune, not an overnight miracle. Every man I've studied who has risen to greatness shares this one reality. Success is built slowly, methodically, and relentlessly through disciplined action, repeated day after day. It comes without applause. It arrives without certainty. It grows without guarantees. But it does come to the man who builds it. This is a truth you must deeply understand if you want to stop wasting months and ultimately years waiting for the right time. Most men stall their destiny because they've bought into the lie that clarity, motivation, or opportunity must arrive first before they take action. But let me tell you now that belief is a trap. It's a beautifully disguised lie. There is no right time. There is only the time you decide to begin. Every structure of greatness, every company, every legacy, every strong identity was built brick by brick, not in bursts of inspiration, but in the quiet, unseen labor of ordinary days. Consider Thomas Edison. Do you really think the light bulb was born from a single moment of genius? No. It was born from over 10,000 silent failures. 10,000 times he tried. 10,000 times he was mocked. 10,000 times his own mind whispered doubt. But he continued because he understood the principle: repetition is not punishment. Repetition is preparation. It is the process of building certainty when none exists. Edison knew that success wasn't magic, it was structure. So he laid it piece by piece, attempt by attempt. Now look at Henry Ford. He was ridiculed, rejected, doubted even by his own engineers, who said the V8 engine couldn't be built. But Ford didn't argue. He didn't retreat. He believed. And he didn't believe once. He believed repeatedly every morning through storms of failure, through walls of disbelief, through rejection after rejection. He rehearsed his vision until it transformed into steel in motion. That wasn't luck. That was rhythm. That was the science of persistence. You must adopt the same standard. Success doesn't descend from the sky. It rises from your rituals, from the systems you create, from the choices you repeat. Every time you neglect your structure, your routine, your identity, your focus, you weaken the walls of your future. And the destruction doesn't happen overnight. No, it collapses slowly, silently in the small decisions you avoid in the days you let slip, until one day you find yourself surrounded by ruins. Not because the world was cruel, but because you refused to build. So I ask you now, what is your structure? What are your non-negotiables? Do you rise with a mission or drift into the day, like a leaf on the wind? Do you declare who you are before the world speaks, or do you let the noise of life shape your identity? Don't expect greatness while living with the discipline of mediocrity. Through decades of research, I found that the world's most successful men had one thing in common above all else: definiteness of purpose. Their aim was not vague. Their mission wasn't flexible. It was fixed, anchored, and each day they acted in deliberate alignment with that aim, not with heroic bursts, but with small, consistent motion. They didn't try to do everything. They focused on doing the right things again and again until it became instinct. That is the foundation. That is how you stop wasting years. You stop wasting years by mastering days, and you master days by mastering rituals. You must ask yourself, what must I do every day without fail to move my mission forward? Then do it, not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient. Do it when it's hard. Do it especially when it's hard. This is how steel is forged. Through pressure, through fire, through repetition. Your life will be no different. Your character, your results, your future, all of it is built from brick. And the mortar that holds it together is called discipline. and your vision that is the blueprint. Every day you neglect your routine, you delay your destiny. Every day you honor it, you step into power. So build your daily rhythm with intention. Include a moment of silence to reconnect with your vision. Declare your identity before the day begins. I build myself daily. I do not skip the foundation. Then commit to one meaningful act, no matter how small, that moves you forward. And each evening with reflection. Ask yourself, did I build or did I wait? Did I act like the man I'm becoming or did I drift? You don't need 1,000 perfect moves. You need a handful of faithful ones executed with intensity and belief. Again and again. This is not glamorous, it's not flashy, but it's sacred. Because every repetition is a vote for the man you are becoming. Every act of discipline is another strike of the chisel, carving away the stone of your old self. And if you continue, if you don't stop one day, you will look up and realize you are now the man you once only imagined. That's how greatness is forged. That's how legacy is built. So I ask you, will you build or will you drift? Repeat after me, I build myself daily. I do not skip the foundation. Say it each morning. Say it when you're tired. Say it when you feel like quitting. Because the man who keeps building, even in silence, even without applause, is the man the world cannot ignore. Now take a deep breath. Look at the day ahead and lay the next brick. Delay is the enemy of destiny. Decide and move. Now there is no force more lethal to your progress than delay. Not failure, not fear, not fatigue. Delay is the most dangerous enemy of all because it doesn't shout, it whispers. It tiptoes into your mind disguised as logic, clothed in comfort, and cloaked in the voice of false wisdom. It says, wait until you're ready. Wait for the perfect moment. Wait until the path is clear. But those who listen to this voice, they don't climb mountains. They don't build legacies. They wait forever. They become masters of preparation and slaves to hesitation. They live stuck in a loop of almost someday and not yet, while the life they were meant to live passes them by. So let me speak with absolute clarity. Waiting for motivation is a lie. It's not patience. It's betrayal. And it wears the mask of reason. Motivation is not a foundation, it's a visitor. It arrives unpredictably, stays briefly, and cannot be trusted to carry you forward when the grind grows heavy. The man who relies on motivation to act is like a farmer who waits for perfect weather before planting his seeds. He may be lucky one season and barren the next. But the builder, the leader, the one who rises above the noise, they don't wait on the skies. They move with decision, swift, committed, final decision. Andrew Carnegie once said to me, the man who hesitates is already defeated. The opportunity is gone before he even reaches for it. I believe that with every fiber of my being. Because I've seen it time and again, success belongs to the man who acts, not the one who waits. The idea of someday is a fairy tale, a myth, a soothing lie. How many men have taken their dreams to the grave still unstarted? How many have carried ideas, inventions, and missions that never saw daylight because they were waiting to feel ready? I have walked among the crowds pursuing success, and I tell you, this truth: most were not crushed by failure. They were paralyzed by delay. They waited too long. The fire inside them dimmed and finally died beneath layers of distraction, comfort, fear, and false caution. If you're waiting for the right time, you must hear me now. There is no right time. There never was. And if you don't decide now, you likely never will. This is not pessimism. This is a call to power. One of the most dangerous habits a man can form is emotional reasoning, the belief that action must follow feelings. I don't feel like it today. I'm tired. I'm not inspired. These statements are not harmless. They are death sentences to dreams. You don't need to feel ready. You need to move anyway. The man who becomes unshakable isn't driven by his emotions, he commands them. He does not check his mood before he acts. He acts and lets his mood catch up. He builds momentum by action, not motivation. You must develop what I call a bias for immediate execution. This is not recklessness, it is responsibility. To yourself, to your future, to the man you are becoming. The moment the idea arrives, you act. The second fear whispers, you step forward. The moment the door cracks open, you don't wait for applause or permission, you go through it. This is how you build self-trust. This is how you rewire your nervous system to believe I am a man of execution. I move, I decide, I do not delay. And with time, that belief hardens into identity. Think of Edison. He didn't wait for perfect conditions to begin his experiments. He moved first and clarity came through motion. Think of Henry Ford. He didn't wait for consensus before building his dream. He acted first and forced the world to adjust to his vision. Now it's your turn. Will you keep waiting for fear to disappear? Or will you move and watch fear retreat behind your momentum? Because the truth is simple, fear doesn't vanish with time. It vanishes with movement. Do not become the man who thinks about change but never acts. Do not become the man who talks of vision but never walks the first mile. Do not become the man who loses decades to a moment of hesitation. You were not put on this earth to delay. You were not built to drift. You are here to decide. You are here to move. You are not here to be ruled by moods. You are here to rule your mind. Repeat this truth with me and say it like your life depends on it. Because it does. I act when it's hard. I decide without delay. Let this be the command you whisper in the morning when your body resists. Let it be the fire in your voice when your feet hesitate. Because it is not the man with the most plans who wins, it is the man who moves first. The one who adjusts while in motion. The one who refuses to let another year pass by in silence. This is what I call the law of immediacy. This is the true standard of power. You do not rise by waiting. You rise by deciding and then acting again and again until the world bends to the will you forged in silence. Fear is not your enemy. It is the fire that forges you. Every man you admire, every man who stood tall, built something meaningful, changed the world. Walked with fear beside him. Let that truth be your foundation. They were not fearless. They were simply unwilling to let fear lead. They heard the whispers of doubt. They felt the weight of risk. They saw the shadows of failure, but still they moved. This is the line that divides the average from the extraordinary. The weak obey. Fear the strong do not. Thomas Edison. He failed over 10,000 times before he birthed the light bulb. Do you imagine that journey was free from fear? He feared the ridicule of the world. He feared wasting his life chasing an idea no one believed in. And yet he pressed forward. The Napoleon. He was mocked, dismissed as delusional, warned by even his closest engineers that his vision was impossible. But he did not let fear write the ending. He kept building. Abraham Lincoln. He bore the weight of a fractured nation through civil war, hate, and sorrow. Darkness followed him, yet he never turned back. He did not let fear halt his mission. He carried it into battle. Andrew Carnegie. He ascended from poverty to power, haunted by the pressure of responsibility and the fear of falling short. But he did not yield. He mastered fear, and with that mastery built a legacy. So let me speak this to your soul. Fear is not your enemy. It is a signal, a guidepost, a messenger. But the moment you obey it, when you hesitate, compromise, or postpone, because of it, you crown it king. You give it dominion over your direction. And most men, they never even know they've done it. They wait for the fear to fade. They wait for confidence. They wait to feel brave, and they wait forever. But greatness does not come to those who wait for fear to leave. It comes to those who walk anyway. That's the difference. That's the separation between those who dream and those who become. Fear lives in imagination. It multiplies in silence. It thrives when unchallenged. It builds mental prisons full of disasters that never actually happen. Fear is the artist of worst-case scenarios, but remember this, so is courage. If fear can project failure, then you can project victory. That is the human gift, will imagination and vision. Animals react, but you can create your emotional reality. So when fear draws catastrophe on the canvas of your mind, you must pick up your own brush and paint something greater. Paint triumph. When fear shows you 100 ways to fall, you only need to believe in one way to rise. This is what separates the rare from the many. The weak let fear speak, and then they follow its command. The strong let fear speak, and then they act in defiance of it. That's how power is built. Not by eliminating fear, but by refusing to serve it. How do you accomplish this deliberate exposure? Daily repetition, intentional discomfort. You must walk toward what you once ran from. You must stand in the heat until your nervous system adapts. Have the hard conversation. Make the uncertain call. Say what needs to be said. Face what you've avoided. Breathe through the resistance. You will survive. And with each step, fear's voice fades. This is not theory. This is mental conditioning. Every time you walk into fear, you train your mind that you are in control. Every time you obey fear, you strengthen its chains. Alongside this, you must create rituals of identity. Every morning, remind yourself who you are, not the man the world assumes, not the man your fear predicts, but the man you are becoming. The world will not whisper your greatness to you. The world will echo your doubt. So you must speak louder. Stand up, breathe deep, and declare fear is my signal to act. I walk forward anyway. Say it with power. Say it with repetition. Say it until your nervous system no longer flinches. Repetition is the hammer that forges belief, and belief is the soil in which action grows. You are not here to eliminate fear. You are here to rise above it. You are not here to surrender to the whispers of panic. You are here to command your course regardless of the wind, regardless of the shadows. You will never be without fear. That is not the goal. You will still shake. You will still doubt. But here's the secret: you will walk anyway. And in that walk, that movement, despite fear, your true strength is born. There is no courage without fear. There is no fire without heat. The burn you feel in your chest, that's not a warning. That's a signal that you are near something powerful, something that matters. So don't pray for the fear to leave. Pray for the strength to keep moving anyway. Don't wait for silence in your mind. Bring your own voice and speak louder. Don't ask, am I ready? Declare, I'm ready, and then prove it in motion. Repeat with me now and let it brand itself onto your soul. Fear is my signal to act. I walk forward anyway. This is your new command. Carve it into your spirit. Let it anchor you in the chaos. Because when the old voice of hesitation returns, and it will, you will remember this voice, these words, and you will move anyway. Because fear is no longer your ruler. And from this moment forward, it never will be again. You are not fixed, you are programmable. The man you are today is not the man you are destined to remain. Understand this not intellectually but viscerally. Let it sink into your bones. Your identity is not fixed. It's not something you're born with and forced to wear forever. Identity is installed. It is not fate, it is formation. And it is built brick by brick through repetition. Through the silent, invisible, and unstoppable rhythm of what you think, what you say, and what you do again and again. Your past. It does not define you. It only defines the version of you who repeated it. And unless you keep replaying that same internal script, unless you keep speaking those same limitations and living those same stories, you are free to become someone entirely new. But most men never realize this. They look back on their failures and say, this is who I am. They wear past pain like a name tag. But failure is not a prophecy. It is not your truth. It is a program. And every program can be rewritten by a man who chooses to wake up. In Think and Grow Rich, I didn't preach poetry. I delivered mechanics. I taught auto-suggestion not as inspiration, but as the blueprint for transformation. When a man deliberately repeats empowering beliefs fused with emotion, clarity, and intention, he rewires his subconscious mind. And here's the key: the subconscious does not argue. It does not debate. It does not reason. It simply accepts what it hears most. And what it hears most, it installs as truth. So I ask you, what are you repeating? Are you replaying the voice of your past? The one that says, I'm not ready, it's too late, I always mess things up. Or are you rehearsing power, saying, I am capable? I rise, I shape my world with my thoughts and my decisions. Because what you rehearse, you become. What you repeat, you remember. What you remember, you begin to expect. And what you expect, you begin to live. Identity is repetition. And if you want to shed the skin of hesitation, weakness, and self-doubt, you must speak your new self into existence, not once, not sometimes, but daily, relentlessly, until the old voice fades and the new voice becomes your default setting. You must stop repeating pain and start repeating power. Let me give you a model. Thomas Edison, after thousands of failed attempts at creating the light bulb, never once declared, I am a failure. He didn't rehearse defeat. He didn't repeat pity. He visualized success. He declared it before anyone else saw it. It was his mental repetition, not just his experiments, that made the light inevitable. Henry Ford did the same. When the world mocked his dream of a car for every man, he repeated his vision until it became louder than the world around him and stronger than the voice of doubt within. These men did not stumble into greatness. They installed it. They carved it into their minds through focused repetition and ruthless self-command. And now it is your turn. Begin today. Begin now. Say aloud, I rehearse strength. I repeat power. Not as a whisper, but with conviction. Say it tomorrow. Say it the next day. Say it when fear creeps in. Say it when you feel weak. Say it when everything inside you screams to stop. Because your subconscious does not understand truth. It only understands frequency. If you feed it doubt, it builds a weak man. If you feed it indecision, it builds hesitation. But if you feed it belief, clarity, and direction, it will construct a version of you that is unbreakable. This is not theory. This is the operating system of human transformation. All change is repetition. All progress is rhythm. All greatness is rehearsal, 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 until belief becomes automatic, until confidence becomes natural, until action becomes instinct. You want to be a leader, then rehearse it. You want to be disciplined, then declare it. You want to be courageous, then say it, feel it, and live it until it owns you. Do not rehearse pain. Do not replay your regrets. Do not retell your story of suffering. Bury it, and replace it not with fluff, but with daily instructions. Clear, forceful, repetitive instructions to your mind, your body, and your future. Your subconscious mind is your builder, but it does not build what you want. It builds what you repeat. This is why even successful men fall back into old habits, because they stop rehearsing their new identity. They think the work is done, but repetition never ends. The old self is always waiting like a ghost, like a quiet, familiar intruder. If you stop reinforcing who you are, becoming the man you once were will return, and he will take everything you've built. You must never stop building, never stop speaking your new name, never stop reinforcing the man you are becoming, or the man you once were will take his place again. Write your identity every day. Etch it with fire. Speak it with thunder. Move with certainty, because what you repeat becomes what you are. Say it again, I rehearse strength. I repeat power. Let this be your blueprint. Let this be your battle cry. Let this be the hammer that smashes the chains of your former self. And don't you dare think this is too simple. Simplicity is the secret. The mind doesn't need complexity to evolve. It needs clarity, force, frequency. Speak your truth, feel it, act on it, repeat it, and soon the old version of you, the one who doubted, who delayed, who drifted, will vanish. In his place will stand a man of conviction, a man of action, a man whose every move is carved from the granite of self-mastery, because he did not rehearse weakness, he rehearsed power, and in time power became him. You don't wait for the future. You build it daily. The future does not randomly arrive like a gust of wind. It does not knock politely and ask for permission to enter. It is summoned by your habits, by your disciplines, by the quiet, invisible decisions you make when no one is watching. It does not come by accident. It is carved choice by choice in silence long before it ever becomes visible. Let me speak to you without fluff. The year ahead will not be an accident waiting to happen. It will be a consequence of what you install or fail to install right now. Every man, whether he knows it or not, is a builder of futures. The only difference between the man who thrives and the man who merely survives is this: the successful man writes his story. The defeated man lets the world write it for him. One takes the pen, the other watches the ink dry. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You either command your mind or your mind commands you. But it goes even further than that. You either command your time or time devours you. You either shape your year or your year shapes you. There is no neutral ground. No pause button, no place to coast. Time is always moving. It is always writing something. And the question is, what is it writing for you? Here's the raw truth: your habits are your future. Not your goals, not your dreams, your habits. How you rise, how you eat, how you speak, how you think, how you act. These become your identity, and your identity becomes your destiny. Look at your calendar. Look at it not as a list of tasks, but as a mirror. It shows you what you value. It exposes what you believe about yourself. It reflects your true level of commitment. The weak man writes goals and never returns to them. The strong man writes systems, the dreamer scribbles desires, the doer installs rituals, the drifter jots vague intentions and prays for momentum. But the man who leads himself, he builds a daily rhythm so precise, so aligned, that progress happens even when the motivation fades. Let's stop pretending. You do not rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your routines. Ambition lifts your vision, but behavior moves your feet. And where your feet go, your life follows. What you repeat becomes where you arrive. I once studied a man who never let the days slip from his grip, Andrew Carnegie. Without fail, he would review his actions each week, correct his path, and re-anchor himself to his definite chief aim. He didn't wait for progress, he engineered it. That ritual of recalibration wasn't some productivity hack. It was one of the most powerful weapons in his arsenal. He understood this: a man cannot steer his life without tracking where his time flows. A ship without a rudder drifts. A man without a system becomes a ghost of his own potential. You must become the steward of your time. You cannot afford to casually use your calendar. You must master it. Time is not a luxury, it is your currency, and how you spend it is a vote for who you will become. If you want to rise, then install this practice weekly review. Each week, sit down with yourself, not with guilt, but with honesty. Ask, what did I do that aligned with my mission? Where did I drift or allow weakness? What must change? What must be repeated? Write it down, review it, correct it, repeat it. You will experience more transformation in one honest weekly review than in a dozen self-help books. Because transformation doesn't come from hope, it comes from self-governance, from daily alignment, from repeated execution. Let me give you a tool. I call it calendar discipline. Don't begin your week asking, what do I feel like doing? Begin by asking, what must I do to honor my mission? That one shift from emotion to execution, from impulse to principle, will change everything. Each Sunday or whatever day you choose, review your calendar with clarity. Block time for the things that build you, not just the urgent things. Block time for reading, for execution, for belief repetition. These are not optional. These are your spiritual armor. Your calendar is not about productivity. It's about identity. What you give your time to, you become. You do not need a longer year. You need a sharper rhythm. You do not need a better plan. You need a deeper commitment. You do not need more permission. You need stronger discipline. Every successful man I've ever studied, Edison, Ford, Schwab, treated time as sacred. They didn't just protect it. They wielded it. They invested it into the actions that multiplied them. They rejected distractions that diminished them. And you must do the same. Let this be your daily affirmation. My habits honor my mission. My time is mine. Say it aloud. Say it with weight. Say it every morning before the world tries to steal your attention. Say it when the temptations rise. Say it when comfort tries to seduce you. Say it until your subconscious refuses to tolerate waste. Because your time is not just your schedule, it is your life. And the man who commands his time commands his destiny. Do not let another year write itself. Write it yourself, line by line, week by week, habit by habit, until one day you look back not with regret, but with pride. Because you didn't drift, you didn't hope, you didn't wait. You built the future. Now open your calendar, take a breath, and claim it. You are not found. You are forged by decision. There is no such thing as neutrality when it comes to identity. If you don't decide who you are, then rest assured someone else already has. And it's likely not someone qualified to do so. It might be the voice of a parent echoing in your childhood. It might be the expectations of a friend group that fears change. It might be a culture that worships comfort and rewards compliance. But either way, if you're not deliberately choosing your values, your voice, your vision, then you are not in charge. Let's make it plain. The man who does not define himself will always be defined by others. And that, my friend, is one of the most painful truths I uncovered in my research with the most powerful men in the world. Not a single one of them stumbled into greatness. Not a single one of them found themselves by accident. They decided. Andrew Carnegie didn't hope to build an empire, he declared it. Thomas Edison didn't stumble into invention. He trained himself to become the type of man who wouldn't stop until his vision was reality. Henry Ford didn't bow to the world's version of realistic. He imposed his vision on the world until it bent to his will. This is the law: the world does not reward the man who waits to discover himself. It bows to the one who builds himself with intention, consistency, and zero apologies. But the average man, he lives by default. He copies the moods, beliefs, and language of his environment. He adapts to survive, not to lead. He says things like, "That's just who I am," or "I'm not the type of person who," never realizing that identity isn't a description. It's a decision. And until you make that decision, until you write your identity with fire, your life will never truly be yours. You may breathe, you may go through the motions, but you will never live with power. Because identity is not inherited. It is not bestowed. It is forged in fire. It is installed through repetition. It is anchored through belief, and it is reinforced through daily aligned action. That's why in Think and Grow Rich, I didn't just suggest positive thinking, I taught autosuggestion, the deliberate repetition of powerful identity statements spoken aloud with emotion and precision. This is not wishful thinking. This is the reprogramming of your subconscious operating system, the true seedbed of your self-concept. And just like you wouldn't skip meals, you must not skip this. A man who fails to define himself each day is no different than a man who forgets to eat. He becomes weak, vulnerable, and easily manipulated. Because here's another truth: someone is always feeding you identity. Every interaction, every headline, every judgmental glance from someone who never had the courage to pursue their calling. It's all programming. The question is not if you're being shaped, but by whom. This is why I called the man without a definite chief aim a drifter. Because without the engine of will and direction, he floats, conforms, and becomes whatever the world wishes him to be. And let me tell you, the world does not want you powerful. It wants you predictable, quiet, and easy to manage. But the man who defines himself, the man who affirms his identity with clarity and bold action, he is unstoppable. Let's remember Charles M. Schwab. As a young man, he was told he lacked the intellect to lead, that he was too brash, too ambitious, too much. But Schwab rejected those voices. He refused to let small minds define his capacity. Instead, he repeated to himself the identity he was becoming until the world had no choice but to conform to his example. That is the power of internal conviction. That is the force of a forged identity. When you decide who you are, the environment can no longer control you. Because your environment is not your master, it is your mirror. It simply reflects the image you project with the most frequency. So let me ask you plainly, who are you choosing to be? Not who do you hope to become someday. Not who you wish you could be if life were easier. Who have you decided to be right now in this moment before any evidence exists? Because identity always precedes reality. The man who waits to act until he feels confident will never become confident. But the man who decides he is confident and acts accordingly becomes the man he chose to be. This is the mystery most never uncover. Action reinforces identity, and identity fuels action. It is a loop, a cycle, a rhythm you can either let spin randomly or seize and command. You want to change your life? Then change the way you speak to yourself. Change the words that echo in your mind when no one else is around. Change the posture you take when you walk into a room, not to impress others, but so your subconscious sees it and says, this is who we are now. Very well, I shall adjust. Repeat with me now. Seriously, say it out loud. I decide who I am. I do not wait to be told. I walk with certainty, not permission. I move from identity, not emotion. Say it every morning. Say it when fear rises. Say it when failure whispers your old name. Say it until your voice becomes stronger than the voice of doubt, because you must become your own greatest influence. The man who leads his thoughts will lead his world. Let us not forget Abraham Lincoln. He faced national division, public ridicule, the threat of collapse. But he didn't ask, am I ready? He had already decided. And that identity, quietly repeated, relentlessly lived, became the anchor that held a nation together. He didn't wait to feel presidential. He chose to be a president. And then through storms and scars, he walked it out. You have that same power. It's not in a title. It's not in applause. It's not found in books or granted by others. It is spoken into existence, forged in silence, and reinforced through discipline. You cannot fake your way into greatness, but you can repeat your way there. So here is the final truth I'll leave you with. If you want to build a year that leaves no regret, start by building a man the world cannot ignore. Repeat the identity you choose, until it becomes the life you live. Say it aloud. Walk it out. Act as if it's already true. Because once you define yourself, the world will eventually bend to your certainty. And when it does, you won't call it luck. You won't call it fate. You will know the truth. It was identity installed, reinforced, repeated until it became you. Say it again. I decide who I am. I repeat it until the world agrees. The 6 hidden fears that sabotage greatness and how to break free. In all my years studying success, dissecting the minds of history's greatest men, and identifying the silent forces that destroy ambition, I discovered something profound. Every surrender to mediocrity, every delay, every failure, every lost dream can be traced back to just 6 fears. These fears do not arrive like thunder. They don't scream. They don't demand attention. Instead, they whisper. They creep in quietly, shaping your thoughts, weakening your will, and turning potential giants into passive observers. These 6 fears are the invisible chains that bind most men to lives of quiet frustration. But here is the truth, what one man can conquer, any man can conquer, if he is willing to face the fear head on, understand it deeply, and install new patterns that destroy it at the root. Let's name them. Let's confront them. Let's break their hold. 1. The fear of poverty. No fear paralyzes faster than the fear of not having enough. It is ancient, primal, and embedded deep in the survival instinct of man. The fear of poverty convinces you to play small, stay safe, cling to the known, and hoard your gifts rather than invest them. But understand this, it is rarely the lack of money that crushes men, it is the fear of lack. This fear makes men reject, risk, abandon dreams, and surrender purpose for a paycheck. Yet the truth is, this wealth flows to those who create value. How to defeat it? Take bold action, provide value, serve, build something meaningful. Focus not on what you may lose, but on what you can create. Let purpose crush poverty thinking. Adopt an abundance mindset. Believe there's always more ideas, more value, more opportunity. Affirmation. I do not fear poverty. I create wealth through service vision and relentless discipline. 2. The fear of criticism. More dreams have died under the weight of judgment than through actual failure. The fear of criticism silences genius, strangles originality, and convinces powerful men to sit in the shadows rather than take the stage. Most of this fear is planted in childhood shame, mockery, being told to sit down, be quiet, stop dreaming. But no man ever changed the world by hiding. Every great leader, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, stood while being criticized publicly, even brutally. And still they stood. How to defeat it? Detach from the opinions of others. Realize this critics rarely build. They spectate. Their opinion is powerless unless you give it weight. Validate yourself. Applaud your effort. Speak more. Publish more. Lead even when afraid. Affirmation, I am not ruled by critics. I act from purpose, not for permission. 3. The fear of ill health. This fear makes strong men fragile. It turns every ache into panic, every sensation into obsession. The man ruled by this fear does not live, he scans for sickness. And even in a healthy body, he walks with a diseased mind. But understand this, the mind influences the body. The man who fears sickness invites it. The man who obsesses over symptoms creates anxiety and drains vitality, even if he's physically well. How to defeat it? Adopt a mindset of vitality. Eat with intention. Move daily. Visualize yourself strong, clear, capable. Replace worry with gratitude. Instead of scanning for illness, scan for possibility. Affirmation. I am healthy, strong, and full of energy. I build my body through thought, habit, and focus. 4. The fear of loss of love. This fear drives insecurity, obsession, and self-abandonment. The fear of losing love, whether romantic, parental, or social, makes men shrink themselves. It causes them to seek validation instead of truth, to beg instead of build. But love that is clung to in fear is not love, it is dependency. And no great man ever led from need. How to defeat it? Anchor love within. Love yourself first, fully, fiercely. Stand in your truth. Give love from strength, not from lack. Accept the impermanence of life. If love fades, you still remain. Affirmation, I give love freely and fearlessly. I do not beg for affection. I stand whole with or without it. 5. The fear of old age. This fear is not about time, it's about relevance. It's the belief that age equals decline, that after a certain number of years, your best days are behind you, that you're too late. But that belief is a lie. Wisdom is forged in fire. Time deepens impact. The sage is not the youngest in the room. He's the one with the most scars, lessons, and unshakable perspective. How to defeat it. Redefine aging. Let each year make you wiser, sharper, more dangerous in the best way. Keep building. Set goals. Mentor others. Show the next generation how to lead by example. Affirmation. My age is my advantage. My wisdom is my edge. My purpose only strengthens with time. 6. The fear of death, the final fear, the most universal. The one that haunts the man who has not lived fully. He who betrayed his calling, who buried his dreams, who silenced his truth, he is terrified of death, because death reminds him of everything he left undone. But the man of purpose, the builder, the giver, the fighter, he fears no ending because he lived deliberately. How to defeat it? Live urgently. Speak now. Act now. Build legacy now. Let death be a teacher, not a threat. Let it remind you you do not have time to drift. Affirmation, I do not fear death. I fear a life unlived. I rise with purpose and leave nothing undone. Let's be clear, you may never eliminate fear. That's not the aim. The goal is to outgrow it, to understand it, and to walk anyway. The man who overcomes these 6 fears does not become invincible. He becomes intentional. He moves from discipline, not panic, from conviction, not confusion. He walks beside fear, but never hands it the wheel. So build rituals of courage. Speak these affirmations daily. Let them become the drumbeat of your life. Say it with me now and say it like your life depends on it, because it does. I am not ruled by fear. I see it. I understand it. I rise above it. I lead my life with courage and clarity. Now go. The fears will whisper, but this time they will not win. Faith is the furnace that forges the future. There is a force so commanding, so transformational, so essential to the birth of every breakthrough, that without it, no amount of strategy, no degree of effort, no vision board, no hustle will ever be enough. That force, my friend, is faith. But let's be precise. I am not speaking of wishful thinking. I am not talking about blind optimism, naive hope, or religious ritual. I am speaking of faith as a mental state, an internal certainty so fierce, so emotionally charged, so consistently repeated that it reshapes the very chemistry of your thoughts and commands your subconscious to march forward regardless of what your eyes see. If the next year of your life is to look anything different from the last, if you intend to break cycles, build momentum, and step into your calling, you will need more than effort. You will need unshakable faith. Faith not in circumstance, not in luck, not in timing, but in your own God-given power to bring into existence that which does not yet exist. Every world-shifting invention, every company, every movement, every transformation began in belief. Action came second. Clarity came second. The world followed second. Belief came first. When Henry Ford was told the V8 engine was mechanically impossible, he didn't negotiate. He didn't plead. He looked his engineers in the eye and said, "Build it anyway." That wasn't arrogance. That was faith in motion. When Thomas Edison failed not once, not twice, but 10,000 times, he didn't crumble. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." He didn't carry confidence because of applause or resources. He carried it because he installed faith through repetition. Faith, true faith, is not passive. It is not sitting back hoping the clouds part. Faith is active, aggressive, strategic, relentless. It is repeated certainty until your subconscious accepts it as law, and once accepted, your behavior follows. Your words align. Your focus sharpens. Your energy organizes itself around your intention. Understand this, your subconscious doesn't distinguish between truth and belief. It doesn't care if the thing you're saying is real. It only cares how often you say it and how much emotion you put behind it. If you tell yourself, "I always fail," "I'm weak," "I never finish," your subconscious says, "Got it. Let's install that." And you begin to live the prophecy. But if you declare I was made for this, I build what I envision, my faith is stronger than any fear. And say it like you mean it, say it daily, say it until your voice shakes the walls of hesitation. Then your subconscious aligns with that version of you and helps construct the reality to match it. Faith is not some magical state. It's not gifted, it's trained. Like muscle, it must be built, reinforced, and tested. It's not for the fragile, it's for the focused. You construct it like a fortress, one brick at a time, through repetition with emotion. This is why I have championed auto-suggestion for decades. Because what you tell yourself most often, especially when said aloud with certainty, becomes the blueprint your life builds from. Let me share a truth most men reject. You do not need proof to believe. You need belief to find proof. Faith comes before evidence. Always. Every achievement you admire, every person you respect, every life-altering innovation you benefit from, it started with a man who had no proof. No applause, no permission, only faith that said, it is possible. I will not stop until it's real. And now I ask you, do you have that fire? Because the next 12 months will not be determined by your job, your background, your bank account, or your current reality. They will be shaped entirely by the strength of your belief in your own capacity to rise. You might say, but I don't feel that kind of belief. Then let me answer directly. You do not need to feel strong to speak strength. You speak it until you feel it. You act on faith until it feels familiar. You declare who you are until your mind catches up. Here is the ritual I've taught to thousands, now it's yours. The faith-building ritual: write a definite purpose statement. Get crystal clear about what you intend to achieve in the next 12 months. No vagueness. No maybe. Define it like your future depends on it, because it does. Speak it aloud twice daily. Once upon waking, once before sleep. Declare it with volume, certainty, and emotion. This is not passive recitation, it's activation. Visualize it as already done. Do not visualize yourself trying. Visualize it complete. Feel the moment. Smell the air. Hear the applause. See your posture. Write and repeat an identity statement example. I am focused. I am fearless. I finish what I start. I walk in purpose, not permission. Say it every day. Let each repetition carve away the old you and install the new. This ritual is not optional. It is your foundation. Because here's the brutal truth. If you do not program your faith, the world will program your doubt. And the world is loud. The world is filled with small thinkers who want you small too. If you do not guard your inner world, their fears will become your facts. Their limits will become your language. But not you. Not now. You're not here to obey fear. You're here to lead with fire. Remember this. The man who builds faith masters his destiny. Faith is not weakness. It is power in its purest, most concentrated form. It sees the invisible. It moves without proof. It walks while others wait. Carnegie had it. Edison had it. Lincoln built nations with it. And now you must build it too. There will come a moment, maybe tomorrow, when the old self will whisper again, maybe this isn't working. Maybe you're not made for it. And when that voice comes, you must speak louder. I am not who I was. I am becoming who I choose to be. I was made to build. I was made to finish. I believe before I see. Say it not once. Say it until your voice no longer shakes. Say it until your behavior obeys your belief. Say it until the room adjusts to your energy. Say it until you become the man you've been speaking of. This is what faith looks like, not a feeling, but repetition under fire. Movement without permission, conviction without external proof. So rise, speak, act. Not because the way is obvious, but because you are becoming the man who makes the way obvious. The next 12 months are not waiting forever. Claim them with faith, shape them with discipline, and lead them with unstoppable identity. You are not here to drift. You are not here to repeat your old cycles. You are here to create a future so powerful that even your former self won't recognize you. And it all begins with one decision to believe. This is the moment. Decide who you will become and repeat it until you are him. You've heard the laws. You've faced the enemy. You've been handed the tools, the blueprint, the fire. Now there is only one thing left to do. Decide. Not someday. Not when it's comfortable. Not when you feel ready. Now, because your future will not respond to thoughts. It will not rise to hopes. It does not move at the sound of wishes or good intentions. The future obeys only one force, a man who decides and repeats that decision until the world bends to his will. So let me speak directly. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are simply untrained in the discipline of identity repetition. But that training can begin now, this very second. And it begins with the same principle that is echoed through every word of this message. Repetition is the seed of all power. This was the secret that raised Andrew Carnegie from the grip of poverty into the halls of power. This was the system Thomas Edison used to light the world. This was the law that Henry Ford followed to turn doubt into an industrial empire. And this must now become your law, because you cannot listen once and expect to be transformed. You cannot read a truth one time and expect it to replace decades of doubt. You must return. You must repeat. You must install the identity of the man you choose to become, not once, but daily, relentlessly, obsessively. Understand this clearly. Your current beliefs, your habits, your outcomes. They weren't born from fate. They were built through repetition. You rehearsed your excuses. You repeated your hesitation. You listened to fear more than purpose. And so your results became the reflection of your practice. But what if you reverse the rhythm? What if you stop rehearsing the old story? What if you practice certainty instead of hesitation, strength instead of doubt? What if you return to this very message not once, but every morning until the words carve themselves into your DNA? Do not dismiss this. Do not underestimate what repetition can do. Do you want a new life? Then you need a new rhythm. Because the man who listens once is inspired. The man who listens twice is reminded. But the man who listens until he becomes the message, that man is unshakable. So let me leave you not with advice, but with a command. Not a soft whisper, but a battle cry. Say this out loud, not as a mantra, but as a declaration. Say it like your future depends on it. Because it does. I do not drift. I do not delay. I do not obey fear. I am the builder. I am the decision. I am the result. I repeat power daily. I rise by repetition. I finish what I begin. Say it again. Write it down. Etch it into your journal, your wall, your mind. Return to it every single day. Because this is not a speech. This is your system. This is your blueprint. This is your fire lit today and fanned into an inferno through repetition. Now rise. The world is not waiting. Time is not pausing. Your next 12 months have already begun. The only question is, who will you be when they end? Do not watch them pass. Command them. Shape them. Own them. Because this time you don't just hope for change, you install it.